This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be on teams, we're going to be having a party, we're going to be trying to give hidden clues to each other in a way of sort of a subtle conversation between each other. We're trying to have a conversation between our teammates and get them to guess what we're talking about without the other team guessing. Today we're talking about Crosstalk. This is a party game for 4 or more players. It is from Nabu Games, and so this is a party game about words being tricky. Let's take a look. I'll see you on the other side. In Crosstalk, people will split up into 2 teams, the black team and the blue team. Each team's going to have 1 clue giver. All the other players on that team are going to be the guessers. The 2 clue givers will randomly pull a card out of the deck, and they will look to find which is the keyword they want to give. As you can see, some of them are more than 1 word, proper nouns, some of them aren't, some of them are 1 words, and these cards are double-sided. There's a green side and a brown side. If they cannot decide which one to do, you can roll a die and use that there. So let's say this was the card and they both decided, well, let's do the Princess Bride for the clue. Now each of the clue givers get to secretly write in a clue that's going to give them the best idea of where this clue is headed. Again, the other team doesn't get to see this. They will write this down inconceivable, and they're going to put it face down and give it to the blue team. They'll get to look at it. And at the same time, the black team is doing the same thing. Maybe they go down and say royalty, thinking Princess Bride. We want them to think it's somewhat about royal, and they would put this down here and give it to the team. And just to double check, as nobody will be able to see this but the right teams, this is the secret clue. Now the object of the game is to be the first team to get 5 points. How you get a point is to have your team guess. One team is going to give a public clue. So for instance, if black was going to go first, they would give a public clue here, but then the blue team is the first one and the only one that gets to guess. So you want your clues to be somewhat subtle so that your team, playing off your private clue, will somehow think of it, but possibly be throwing them off. So maybe the first player for the black team goes here and writes in wedding for the first clue, thinking, well, it's royalty, it's wedding because princess is royalty and wedding is a bride, and they're going to try to do it that way. And then the blue team would have the possibility of guessing. They could either guess or they could pass. And during the guessing part, the team that's guessing is typically writing down on these boards that the other team can't see. You don't want to talk out loud because the other team is listening. You'll be writing things down, showing it to each other, whispering to each other's ears, trying to figure out how to communicate without the other team hearing you. So let's say that blue team passed, and now it's the blue player's clue-giving team. Let's say they say action, as in camera, lights, camera, action. They're trying to let them know possibly it's a movie without coming out and saying it because they don't know what the private clue the other team got. So the black team knows wedding, action. Their private clue that nobody else would see was royalty. They can't quite put it together yet, so they pass. Now after your team has had the chance to guess, as the clue giver, you can add this board in. Now they don't recommend you playing this with people that don't play a lot of games if it's your first time playing. This is sort of an advanced variant that you can throw in. And this allows you to give your team some specific information. In this case, I said, hey, my second black clue, which is about to come up, just ignore it. I'm going to throw something out there to try to throw the other team off. But you could easily say, hey, combine my secret clue with their guess. Or, you know, let's do this. This was your guess was partially right, or synonym, or opposite, or emphasize this. So different ways to give them tricky, more information about how to get the clue right. So then it comes to the clue, and they decide to go for fast. Now, by the way, the clues you're giving, they can't be proper nouns, nothing that's normally capitalized. You can't use homonyms, can't use sounds, and you're always doing 1 word. So they saw action for this clue, and they thought, let's try to throw them down somewhere that I know the clue is not. Maybe they'll put fast and action together and go down some hairy path. Because I told my team to ignore this, so I know my team's not thrown off, but we're trying to throw off the blue team because they're going to get to guess. At this point, they're still confused, so they don't guess. So the blue clue giver gives mask, and thinking, okay, maybe the Zorro mask that the guy was wearing the character, but the black team gets the guess, and they see all this. They know that their secret clue is royalty, and they're looking at all this, and they think, well, mask was the clue. It's on the face, it's on the head. Maybe, we know royalty, wedding. Maybe we guess crown, and it's not right. But it's now given the other team an idea that we must know something about Crown because our secret clue is royalty. The other team kind of knows where we're headed with that and might understand where we're going. And so maybe the black player says poison. And so now it's all kind of going together. A wedding, a mask, poison, royalty. It's making sense to the black team, but they don't get to guess. And the blue team knows that their secret word is inconceivable, and they guess Princess Bride, and they get it right. So the blue team would get 1 point. This would all reset. The clue givers would swap spots, or if you want, you could keep them the same. They go for a new clue. The first one to 5 points win. When you start a new round, the team that did not score last time gets to decide who gives the first clue, meaning the other team is going to be the one to guess. All right, well, there's Crosstalk. Full disclaimer, earlier, maybe about a month ago, I did do a Kickstarter preview that I was commissioned to do for this video. It did not change my opinion of the game at all, but I wanted to let you know that that happened. I also did a top 10 most anticipated games of 2017 list a couple months ago. This was my #1 anticipated game, and go see that video as to why I put this as my #1. I'll put a link in the description of the video. Now the game itself, I've had more chances to play it now. I saw the production copy. I love the way it is. All the boards work well. Now the game itself, I had said in one of my videos that I thought this was going to be the next Codenames. And what I meant by that is that this game gave me the same feeling that I had when I played Codenames, which was, wow. I like party games, right? I've played them all my life. I still like party games. But when Codenames came out, I played it. I went, oh, this game is special. I felt the same about this game, equally so. This game is special. That's what I meant by this is the next Codenames, meaning I felt this game, and I still do, is as good with mass market parties as it is with gamers. And here's the reason why, my reasoning. Number one, the game is simple. You're giving a clue, you're trying not to get the other team to guess it, and you're trying to do it subtly, but you're giving secret clues as well. And it's basically like Password, but the other team gets to guess first. It's very simple. It's easy to teach in an environment where people don't play a lot of games. In fact, I brought this to a couple of different groups. I brought it to gamer parties, and I brought it to non-gamer parties. And in fact, the games, when I brought this to non-gamer parties, the people there had already played Codenames. And they were wives of people that I brought with me were also some gamers, but most of the people there were not gamers. And all of the wives, 3 of them, said, I really like Codenames, and I like this even better. I actually find this easier. I actually find this more enjoyable. Now me, I don't know if I could pick. I actually love Codenames. It's one of my favorite games, and this is up there with it. So that was proof to me that mass market people can like it. Now granted, keeping this in mind that this game does have some additional depth with the extra player board, the clue giver board. If you leave that out like the rules say, well, then I do think this is a good mass market game. Is it going to sell as much as Codenames? I don't know. Probably not, because Codenames sold so many, and that's a needle in a haystack, and will this get the right distribution, the right press? A lot of things have to align to see if it will actually sell as many, but I'm not talking about selling. I'm talking about, is the game as good? Did it make me say, wow, was it as special? From a game perspective, yes, and I still think so. So when you take it to the gamer way, and you add that board, man, of like, hey, ignore my next clue, or put this with that, or take their last guess and combine it with my next clue, that really changes this game into a fantastic gamer party game. One that I've been enamored with, one that everyone I've played this with absolutely loves it, asks when it's coming out, and everybody wants to buy it. I have not played this with one person who was just like, it's okay, or I don't like it. Everyone has really loved it. So without further ado, I mean, there's nothing much more for me to say here. This is an excellent party game. If you like this sort of thing, even if you didn't like Codenames, this is very different, even though it's somewhat similar where you're using words in a creative way. One of the people said to me, the reason why Codenames is hard for me, this is one of the mass market wives, is they said, well, Codenames is really hard. It's really hard to come up with the clues. In this game, there's more people on the other side that are taking the clues. And so the harder part is actually trying to figure out the clues. I think the easier part is giving the clues in this game. And so actually in this case, when you're the clue giver in Codenames, that's the hardest part. I would never want to put somebody in that position. If I go to a game with Codenames to a party, I actually cringe to try to find who's the most gamer person I can find to make the other clue giver, because that's a hard job right at the beginning. The first instance of the game, their brain melts, and they might not be having a good time. In this, the clue giving isn't that hard. The other side, I believe, is harder, but you're usually with more people, and you're not on the spot. And so I think this game actually has a lower barrier of entry than Codenames without the special board. Now, if there is any negative here, what I can say is that the game can tend to run a little long sometimes. Even with the timer, if you use it as a 1 minute time for everybody, well, 1 minute to think of a clue, 1 minute for the guessers, 1 minute to think of a clue, 1 minute for the guessers. Even if you use that, if the average one goes 3 rounds before someone guesses it, that's actually 6 of those that's going to happen. So it's 4 minutes per round times 3 is 18 minutes. It could go 9 total basically words, because it could be a 5-4 victory, and that's a long game. So it doesn't always, people don't always take a minute. You know, the clue givers could go right away and go fast. Sometimes the clue guessers could just go, no, we're going to pass. So that's like worst case scenario is what I was mentioning. But it can tend to run long sometimes. Sometimes we've stopped it short at 3 points, but it's a party game. So are you going to play to 5 points? Whatever. Just figure it out before you start the game. It is one of those games where you're like, hey, we got 10 minutes if someone shows up. Let's just play a couple rounds of this. Sometimes we've even played 2 out of 3 and it works fine. But the only negative is it can tend to run a little bit long with 5 points. But easy, you can just, you know, do less points. But overall, fantastic game. I'm absolutely keeping this in my collection, so let's give this thing a saxophone serenade.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.